Hello everyone, good evening. I hope I'm pretty much audible as well as visible to you guys. I hope people are doing well and they have started joining in for our masterclass on data science. Uh, hello Career Hunt, thank you so much for joining in. Okay, so as per our agenda today, so we'll be talking about the AIML stuff. So I'll just introduce you to some of the keywords which are very much floating around in the market, and many a times you guys are getting confused with some of the odd jargons available in the data science field. So I'll be talking about those things specifically on the artificial intelligence, which is AI, and ML, which is nothing but machine learning. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, very commonly used terminologies, and I believe you might have heard about them in at a lot of places also. Correct. So, I mean, in this lecture, I'm gonna be deterring from Seaborn, so which we were doing for quite some time, just to make the class a bit more interactive and interesting. So I'll come back to Seaborn, the remaining graphs within a day or two. So for the next 2 days, we have a kind of a workshop on AML masterclass. So we're gonna be talking about AML stuff. So I'll be taking a lot of questions if you have around this particular area. So you can shoot up your questions and we can talk about them. But anyway, guys, as always, if anybody has any questions from anywhere, like maybe from the lectures or Python, data science, anywhere, like guys, please put up your questions so we can take them as it comes. I'll try to answer them to the best of my knowledge. Cool. So let's begin. Let's start with our today's session. So as I was mentioned, so our agenda today is to talk about data science, right? So we have something really good prepared for the content. So let's talk about that. But before that, let's have a quick round of introduction. So this is again the basic thing. As you know, guys, my name is Arpit Jain, and I'm a senior data scientist myself. I have almost 9 years of industry experience, and I'm a motivational speaker along with that too. So I take the mentorships. I talk to people regarding their industry sessions. I talk to them regarding their career, the jobs. So do feel free to put up your questions if you have any confusion or any doubt regarding your career, data science, or whatsoever thing, right? So please be open and put up your questions in the chat. I'll take it to the best of my knowledge again, as I mentioned. But again, subjects as part of our playlists. So we have Python, SQL, data science planned already. Python already started about a couple of months back, and then we are going to and fro from that. SQL also we've started a month back, so that's going over the weekends. Data science we have introduced last week, and the good thing is we have clubbed data science with Python. That's what we are doing. So the concepts I'm trying to introduce you to them along with the Python application. So that's what we are trying to do, right? But again, on top of that, guys, there is a code right in there in front of your screen, Python 10. So Python 10 is nothing but your code to unveil your free Relevel sample test paper. So if you're going to use this particular code, Python 10, you can actually get a free sample test paper on Relevel. Great. So, time for a quick promotion as always. Please bear with me for this. As you know, Relevel is one of the platforms unveiled by Unacademy. So, but again, before that, let's understand the reason why this has been created. So, many a times, the candidates do miss out on the great opportunities, maybe due to multiple reasons. It could be like they don't have the better degree, or it's more of a poor networking they have. A better degree, I mean, not from the tier A universities, poor networking by that, not having the right sources of people, or maybe the recruiters or officials from where they can get a referral or maybe a direct contact from. And also, many a times, the resumes with which the candidates are applying are not standing out. So there are at least 100 other applicants for the same job, right? So many a times, the same resume is not making you fit for the shortlisting. So that's again an issue. Also, you're applying for like maybe 50, 60 or maybe n number of other jobs. still you're not getting even a single interview call. Very practical problem, but that is true and very genuine. So these are the very genuine issues due to which the candidates do miss out on the great opportunities, right? And to cater these problems, only Relevel has been introduced, which is India's first test hiring platform by Unacademy, and which is helping you to get your dream job, right? So here, basically, you're not dependent on any of your degree or any sort of networking. Rather, it is purely dependent on your skills and talent. So your job is in your hands, and that is purely on your skills and talent. Okay. So technically, how it works, guys, it's more of a testing platform, as I've always mentioned. So there are certain portfolios and certain roles which you have to select, right, based on your interest and core skills, right? And once you select that, you have to actually go for an assessment. It's more of an assessment platform, right? So there'll be multiple rounds of assessment tests, basically, right? So the only expectation from you here is to get the best score out of those assessment. That's it. So the only expectation here is, score, give your best, and get the best scores. And based on your scores, you will be able to attract the interest from the companies. And by normal norms, when like you generally reach out to the companies, right? But here, after giving the test, the companies will reach out to you. You don't have to do anything else. So it's purely based on your assessment and your skills and talent, right? So there are other certain benefits involved if you participate in the Relevel testing platform. So I'll just brief out on you those. Some include, like, there are at least 50 plus companies, including the top startups and even the unicorns like ENY, Upgrad, Cred, Razorpay, Urban Company are hiring directly from the Relevel. So they have an internal tie-up with Relevel. So they are hiring directly from the Relevel platform. Also, there are at least 1,000 plus open job positions across three developments portfolios right now, like business, front end, and the back end development. Also, these portfolios have multiple individual roles available within. So, right, so you can choose your interesting. This is also completely online, so you're not supposed to be physically present anywhere. So you can take this from the comfort of your home. The best part is this is completely free, so you're not expected to pay even a single penny out of your pocket, right? So you can take this from the comfort. So there is no money involved in this. The only expectation is, since I've told you there are multiple rounds involved, so you're expected to finish your entire test in a single day's time, and that day could be of your choice, right? And once you've given the test, you will actually get the Relevel score within a week's time, right? So with this score, you might stand out a chance to to attract the interest from the companies. And I mean, and something that stands out, you always know that that is more attracted by the company. So there are higher chances that you'll be getting noticed by the companies. And the only way you can stand out from the crowd here is to score well, to get the best score you can, right? So that's the only expectation from you here. No other left and rights, right? So the purely on your score. So right now, again, the qualifying score is 70% as of date. So there at least I think the test is for 1,000 marks. So you have to at least score 700 out of 1,000. So that is 70%. Higher the better, right? So higher would be the better. Again, guys, if you do not meet the qualifying criteria, which is 70%, so you can again reattempt the test, but that can happen only after 30 days of your first attempt. Okay, so you can reattempt, but only after 30 days. Cool. Also, there are again certain exciting goodies involved if you participate in this. So you might be rewarded with MacBook or iPhone or something like that. So if you are one of the highest scorers in a particular category in a month, so the highest scorers are also getting rewarded here. So with Relevel, guys, you're in a unique position to invite interest from the companies instead of you hunting for your own opportunities, right? So once you have given the test, sit back and relax. The companies will reach out to you once your Relevel score is visible to them within a week's time. Cool. So again, guys, registering also is quite easy. So you have the link available on the YouTube description. Go through that and just sign up. And the next thing, it will ask you to select the test of your choice, right? So there are three different portfolios available right now: business development, front end development, and the back end development. Multiple Popular roles such as the sales associate, customer engagement associate in business development, Angular web developer in front end, backend engineer, software engineer, data engineer in your backend development, right? So depending on that, you can choose the test of your choice. Next thing they will ask is to choose the date of your choice, right? So you have to book your slot for your test date. So again, it's a beta platform, slots are limited. I would suggest you to really book it fast. Once you have selected your test date, the next thing will ask you to fill up your admit card, basically your general details like full name, email ID, birth year, state, your gender, and the most important thing is your referral code. So here you have to use the code which is shared earlier, Python 10. If you use this code Python 10, you'll actually unlock a bonus sample test paper. So exact replica of your test paper which you'll be expecting to be asked for the Relevel test, right? So do not forget to use that code. You'll unlock the bonus sample test paper. And once you've created your account, right, you can see this, you have a tab called as practice, and in this practice you can see the sample paper, right? So you can always use this sample paper to actually get a fair idea what questions you can expect here in the testing platform. Cool. That is done. So now please, I would request you to register yourself on the Relevel platform today. And as I've said, there is no cost involved. So I do not, understand. I mean, do not feel that there is any loss for you in this. At least try it for once, right? So you can give it a try for once, and once you have done that, right? So just, give a fair shot to your assessment, and then if you're not getting benefited from this, you can maybe decide about the other things later. But at least give it a try for once, because if you're looking for a job, this deserves at least one chance, right? So that's about the Relevel, guys. Apart from that, we also have a Telegram official channel. The link is again there in the YouTube description. You can join that channel, and this will be a one place stop for you to for all of your upcoming schedules and details. So all the classes schedules will be shared on this Telegram channel, right? So this is the one place stop for you. You will not be supposed to go run around here and there for any updates and all. Last but not the least, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. So if you feel that you're getting benefited, please do press the like button on the chat and share with your friends. Cool. So with this, guys, we are into our content slide, Python for data science, AI, ML, right? So we'll be talking about artificial intelligence, we'll be talking about machine learning. So any fair understanding, if anybody has any sort of knowledge or any information, do share that, right? So we'll talk. Our objective in this workshop is majorly to talk. Okay, so I'm not going to introduce very core technical competencies, very core technical terms. That does not really make sense for the very first and the second class. We'll talk about the layout. We'll talk about how things are connected in each other, right? So I'll just clear out few of the confusions you might be having. So we'll talk about them, right? But to start with, let's start with artificial intelligence, right? So we have a lot of jargons to be covered today: artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, right? So you might have heard these terms. So what are these exactly, and how they are connected? Are they different? How they are different? What is the competencies involved in this? How am I supposed to be good enough in machine learning? What I'm supposed to learn to be good in artificial intelligence? So all those questions we'll try to cover in today's lecture. Okay, but again, guys, please try to make it more interactive. Again, I'm not here to give you some definitions, does not really make sense, right? Please try to interact today, so that's how you'll be clearing out your doubts. Okay, hello Sandeep, thank you for joining in. Cool, guys. A quick question to you. What is artificial intelligence? So just a question to you. Anybody has any fair understanding? Just even a plain simple sentence is fine for me. What do you think? I'll give you 30 seconds of time. Do think about it. So do let me know in the chat, what do you understand from the term artificial intelligence? What does it click? So how do you, I mean, what do you understand? What do you know about this term artificial intelligence? Quickly, guys. Take 30 seconds, think about it, and put up your response in the chat. I'll try to understand what do you know and how do you infer artificial intelligence. What do you mean artificial intelligence is? Quickly, guys, I'm not looking for a definition, just a fair understanding, whatever knowledge, whatever thing you have. Hi, Swapnil. a good question, yeah. How to manage office time in lectures? So you can understand that even for me, it's trickier, right? So everybody has their own responses, right? So if you want to learn and if I want to teach you, so I have to take out time from some or the other way, right? So it's purely your understanding, it's purely your thing to see, right? But if you have the wish, if you really want to learn, then you have to invest some time, right? But again, guys, quickly, what is artificial intelligence? What do you think artificial intelligence is? Maybe an intelligence which is artificial. Thank you so much, Shaurya, for really wonderful kind of words here. A kind of a non-trivial algorithm that is driven by past experiences. Very well said. But why always past experiences? Maybe an ad hoc response could be an intelligence, right? An intelligence which is artificial, that is not a human intelligence, right? So something which is human, that is not artificial, that is real intelligence, like a human brain, right? So I'm talking about intelligence which is artificial. So your brain is basically doing some intelligence work, right? So you are also your brain is actually doing an intelligence thing, right? That is a real intelligence. I would say more of a biological intelligence kind of a thing, right? But intelligence which is not real, which is again trivial, which is not real, and I would say is more of a kind of a non-living thing, right? So which is a made thing. So that is your artificial intelligence. What do you call artificial things as, right? It is not real, it is made, right? So intelligence which is not real, intelligence which is made, so you can call it as artificial intelligence, maybe, right? Simran says, yeah, AI is basically simulating intelligence in machines. Absolutely correct. Yes, why not? So you are generating, you are creating this kind of intelligence. This is not real. This intelligence, whatever intelligence it is, we'll talk about this intelligence. Multiple works also involved in it. We'll talk about them. But intelligence which is not real. So we can just relate to this, right? That is artificial intelligence. A quick understanding, a quick basic, I would say, kind of a layout definition for this. It's more of a wide-ranging branch of computer science concerned with the building smart machines. So that's what Simran is saying, right? So we are building smart machines which typically require a human intelligence, right? So I'm making the machines smarter, correct. And these machines could be anything, right? So I mean, again, take it from like a normal calculator, right? It is also doing some intelligence work, right? This is just a machine, and that machine can do. I mean, that's a very basic example, right? But again, it can go to n number of different complex levels, right? Just think about multiple bigger jobs which is being performed on a machine, which is doing some kind of a human intelligence, which requires something human intelligence, right? So which is that intelligence is again not real, that is made up. So basically I'm doing some kind of task, some kind of activity to make my machines smarter to do the job which is typically requiring a human brain intelligence. Okay, so that is something called as artificial intelligence. I'm making the things smarter which is expected to do the human kind of intelligence thing. So that is your artificial intelligence. Any questions in this, guys? Is this basic thing clear? Just a quick thumbs up or a yes or no in the chat, guys. So this is basically your very much, I would say, very first entry point towards your data science. Okay. So before even talking about machine learning, deep learning and all of that things, I'll connect to them to artificial intelligence in our later slides. But before that, everything boils down to my artificial intelligence, because ultimately my end objective is I'm creating that intelligence, I'm making the machines smarter to do the job which is actually requiring a human to do that, right? Elsewise. So I'm making my machines smarter, correct? And now let's talk about how my machines are becoming smarter, right? What exactly I'm doing. So there are certain other intellectual artifacts about artificial intelligence. Let's talk about that. So basically, again, as I talked about, AI includes the simulation process of human intelligence by machines and special computer systems, right? So basically, again, you are actually simulating the process of human intelligence, which is actually now in running in terms of machines and special computers. So you're building up your system, you're building up your environment, which is non-real, which is basically machine, and you're trying to simulate the human intelligence on top of those machines. So that is nothing but your artificial intelligence, right? There are certain examples, so lot of places which this can be used. For example, that include learning, right? So I'm making the system learn, I'm making the system understand what is happening. So that learning is a very good artifact of my artificial intelligence. Next is reasoning. So I'm making the machine question whether this learning, what learning has been, what has happened for a particular problem statement, whether that learning was correct or not, and what could be, if that is incorrect, what could be the right measure to learn that pattern, or to learn that particular use case or a problem statement, right? Reasoning, I'm making the machine question the things, question the facts, question the points. So you're making the machine learn, you're making the machine reason the questions, right? And also, once you have identified the reasoning parts, it is self-correcting it, right? So the self-correction is also very much important. So three things, three very, very crucial, important artifacts of my artificial intelligence: learning, reasoning, and self-correction, right? So in learning, you talk about multiple things again. Then you go deep in how to learn, when to learn, what to learn, lot of things. I'll talk about that subsequently. But again, understand these three major broad areas of my AI: learning, reasoning, and self-correction, right? So I'm making the system learn. If it has learned, how it has learned, it's going to question whether that learning pattern is correct or not, and trying to identify what could be the right way in that sense, right? And the next is self-correction. Identified the issues, identified the problems, maybe identified also the right way to do that, and also next is taking the action to correct it, right? So all of these three aspects are very important artifacts of my artificial intelligence. Okay, so here there are multiple applications of again AI, maybe speech recognition, expert systems, image recognition, machine vision, right? And then there are again many more. So what is speech recognition? So maybe I'm building up a machine, I'm building up a system. So like for example, if I speak up to that system, it is able to identify that Arpit Jain is speaking. How the hell the system knows that Arpit Jain is speaking? I have made the system understand, I have made the system learn that based on the voice patterns, tones, and whatever information available while I speak, right? It captures that and it learns the pattern. And based on that, it actually tells, okay, with this voice, with this tone, it's Arpit Jain speaking. Likewise, it's not only limited to me. It can be spread out to the entire population if I have that information available to make the system learn to understand the patterns, right? So that is speech recognition system. Very interesting, very fascinating. So again, it's more of a system, right? I'm building up a machine to do the human intelligence, correct? Similarly, image recognition. So I'm maybe doing a face recognition. I'm entering a mall, and that CCTV camera is able to identify that, okay, this is Arpit Jain, ID this and all that. So you might have seen in some fancy MI movies, right? So by CCTV, you are able to correlate, okay, by just face, what is the ID and all that details of that person. So that is your face recognition, right? So you're building up a machine, you're building up a system which is doing all of this artificial intelligence job. For this, beforehand, you would be needing some kind of human expertise. Making sense to you guys? Yes, Simran, yes, by self-correction, I mean reinforcement. Exactly correct, yes. So these are the very, very important aspects of artificial intelligence. So learning, reasoning, self-correction, and then post that there are multiple applications. I've just listed few of them: speech recognition, face recognition, expert systems, machine visions, right? I mean, these are just few things I can just list about them. But again, this is what my artificial intelligence is, right? So artificial intelligence is my bigger umbrella. It's the outer umbrella of all of my ML work, of my deep learning work. Because again, machine learning is a part of my artificial intelligence. Deep learning is a part of my artificial intelligence. One of the techniques, one of the ways where we can make the machine intelligent, right? So that's more of a thing. So artificial intelligence is a bigger umbrella. That's the whole picture behind your machine learning or deep learning and whatever things we have talked about, right? NLP and all that. We will come to that, right? So artificial intelligence is nothing but a process or a simulation process where you are making your machines smarter, where you're making your systems more intelligent by kind of making them understand or making them perform the human intelligence kind of a thing, right? And how you're going to do that? There are a lot of processes involved in this: learning, reasoning, self-correction. So three major aspects of my AI process: learning, reasoning and self-correction. Very important aspects here, right? Learning, you're going to make the system understand, read what has happened in the past, maybe with few datas, right? So make the system understand, learn things, right? So you're making the system learn by forcefully, you're making them learn. Second is reasoning. It is actually self-questioning whether that reasoning, whatever was done earlier, was correct or not, right? And what could be the ideal way, optimized way to make it more sufficient, efficient, and all that. The next is, after identifying those steps, self-correcting it, right? This is all forms of my artificial intelligence. This is very, very, very important aspects. Any questions here, guys? Hemant, I'm really sorry, this is confidential. I cannot share the PPT, but you will have the recordings anyway, so you can refer it anytime in future. Cool. So let's take these three focused areas, right? So your cognitive skills, basically learning, reasoning, and self-correction. I'm again coming to this. Okay. So learning process क्या है यार? Learning process is nothing but you are making the rules or the algorithms to learn the patterns or information available from your data. Cool. So basically you are outlining some kind of algorithm. Algorithm क्या होता है? Basically some kind of rules, right? Certain steps, 1, 2, 3, 4. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. This is what algorithm. That's what we call algorithm is, right? So you are making some kind of rule, some kind of pattern, some kind of algorithm to make the patterns or the information learned by the system, right? And then again, we're going to talk about there certain very good algorithms available. We'll talk about them one by one. But again, learning process in artificial intelligence is nothing but with certain kind of an outline boundary condition, you're making the system learn the pattern, the information available in your data. That is learning. Correct? The next is my reasoning process. So this aspect of AI is basically actually helping to choose the right algorithm or the right a set of rules to get the desired outcome, right? So now the system is actually self-questioning that the rules which were identified, the rules by which it has learned earlier, whether that is correct or not, okay? Or rather in that case, I would say whether that is efficient or not, right? So in that way, the system is intelligently understanding the reasoning process also. It is questioning the way it has learned in the past. And also, once it has identified to question, it is able to self-correct also. Okay. So it has able to fine tune the algorithm. It is able to make the changes needed in those rules, right? And ensure that the result which is coming out is the most accurate ones, is the most preferred ones. It is more closer to your human intelligence, right? Because for example, now I'll just give you an example. If I give you a picture of a cat and a dog, right, you will be happily telling me whether it is a cat or a dog, right? As a human, we all are capable. It's a very small, it's a very minute task for us, but we are capable enough to tell by just seeing a picture. Okay, this picture is for a cat or maybe for a dog, right? It's for us very easy. But the same job for a system is trickier. Now the system is learning to understand whether by this picture is belonging to a class of cat or a class of dog, right? And to make that system learn, to make that machine learn this pattern, there is a hell lot of things involved in the background. It is identifying the rules to understand the patterns, choosing the right pixels, understanding everything beyond it, the dots and all that, and then also making it self-correcting, right? Making the system learn if the performance, if the results of that dog and the image is not correct, the machine is able to identify the right process, fine-tune the rules, fine-tune the patterns which is able to identify those images, right? So that's what the next thing is, reasoning and self-correction. Cool, guys? Any questions here? We are just talking about artificial intelligence now. I'll come to machine learning and all that. Please be patient. But here, anybody has any questions? Just a quick yes or no. Good question, Parak. So yeah, Java or Python, they both are equally good. So they both have their own equal application. So Python, Java is a very core language for your software development, the backend development part, right? So if you are one of those guys who are working on the backend developments, I would say Java is your language, a go-to language. Java, J2E, J2K. So these are very strong backend coding languages, right? Python is more of Python is, I would say, it is flourishing these days and very popular in the data science arena. So I would say 95% of the companies are actually working on Python for the data science work. So in that sense, you have to understand. I mean, you cannot just use any other language to any other place, right? Depending on the role and the responsibility. So Java has its own usage and responsibility, and then likewise Python has its own, right? Java is mainly for your backend development. Python, I would say, is also used in the software development part, but mainly towards, I would say, these days in data science. So Python is more famous in that area. Cool. So moving ahead, so there are certain advantages and disadvantages of AI, right? Simran asked, is reasoning something like making AI explainable? I think you're trying to relate it to machine learning, Simran. Not really. So I would say it's more of if you want to, if I'm not, if you're aware of this thing, I would say machine learning. So there's something called as grid search CV, right? So finding out the right parameters, basically for hyperparameters for your algorithms. So I would say this is auto hyperparameter tuning. So kind of this is your reasoning. So the reasoning is, it is self questioning, it is self identifying the best parameters to understand the patterns. So yeah, the reasoning is more towards that. But again, do not relate this with machine learning. Machine learning, I'll come to that. Okay. But again, a good question. It's not basically explainable. So explainable is a different thing. Okay. As I was talking about certain advantages and disadvantages. So advantages, I mean, definitely. So very good for data heavy jobs. So if you have enormous amount of data, and which even the human brain would take some time to understand, you can actually leverage your AI intelligence, right? So it's very good for data heavy jobs. You can start putting up your dumps and dumps of data, and the machine will be happily learning it, right? Saves time definitely in computation, consistent results, because it is learning by some pattern. So and the machine cannot lie, right? It cannot just goof up. So it has, if it has learned some pattern, it's going to give you the consistent results. Yes, definitely. If the pattern changes in future, and if the machine has not learned based on those patterns, it will still give you the old results, right? It will not be able to identify the new patterns, because it has not been trained on that. It has not learned the new patterns. But having been said that, if the patterns are not changing, it will give you the consistent, it'll keep on giving the consistent results for millions and millions of years if the patterns is not changing. Correct? Because it's just a machine. It is just doing a robotic job for you. Always available. The availability is quite high. Disadvantages kya hai? It's very much infra dependent, right? So you have to make sure that you have the right running infrastructure for your machines, right? So this is very expensive. So infra dependent, and if you're going towards the highly classified things, if you're going towards the advanced part of your machine learning and the core of development, so yeah, definitely it's infra dependent and hence might become expensive. It requires technical expertise, so you should be knowing the technical details of the things which you are doing, so the kind of logics which you're trying to perform. So that level of technical expertise is required, right? And heavily dependent on data, nothing beyond that. So it is purely dependent on your data. So if, for example, your data is incorrect by some chance, right, and data could be incorrect, right, some maybe some data errors, some issues in your data, right? So if anything is going wrong in your data, I mean, your AI, your learning process will go haywire, right? So it is heavily dependent on data, right? It's, I would say, not heavily, purely dependent on your data, right? And nothing beyond that. So in some of the odd cases, this is disadvantages also, right? Like a human brain is still able to correlate things and trying to identify the similar things and patterns, and still trying to find out the best results. But here it is just like a plain simple one way streak, right? So it is heavily dependent on data. If anything goes haywire, you're gone, right? Parak, so again, yeah, I'm not sure which stream we belong to. So, what is your area of interest? So, I mean, first try to understand what is your area of interest. Okay, so it's still fine that you are in college. It's totally okay. I understand that everything is just overwhelming now. Data science is anyway very much overwhelming on internet. I understand that, right? And I mean, J2E Java is like old-fashioned technologies, and it's never going to be obsolete, right? It will always be there, right? So again, for all of that, I will first try to request you to understand your interest area. That is very much important, right? So look for where your interests are in, right? And based on that, we can talk about that. But again, both of these fields has their own advantages and disadvantages, and I cannot really comment that, you know, this is good or this is bad. They both are equally good, and I have my good friends in Java development as well, so I know that they are having good job, good life. So they both are equally good. The It all depends on your area of interest, right? So based on that, we can talk about it. Cool. So now let's coming towards my AI types. So there are basically four different types of AI intelligence. Okay. So I was talking about my AI artifacts, but now here I'm talking about my different types of AI intelligence. Okay. So broadly, there are four types of AI intelligence: reactive machines, limited memory, theory of mind, and self-awareness. Okay, so these are broadly four different types of artificial intelligence. So intelligence जो real नहीं है उसके भी चार types हैं. Okay, four types of artificial intelligence. आपको मैं एक basic example बताता हूँ. Okay, अब जैसे for example suppose let's talk about these examples. Let's talk about them one by one. Okay, so let's talk about say reactive machines. So what are reactive machines? So reactive machines, by name it says, it tells that it's more of a reactive approach. Okay, so it is not utilizing the available previous information. It is rather taking a spontaneous decision. Okay, so on spot decisions. So this is more of a reaction. This is more of a chain approach. Okay, so if you say A, it'll say B, or it'll say B. Now if you say B, it'll say C, because there's a sequential order. It's taking the reactive approach. Whatever whatever the other person do, based on that you're gonna react. The machine will gonna react. Okay, so that's a reactive machine, very primitive, very basic. Okay, and here the machines cannot store any memory, so they are not relying on any past experience. They're not relying on any kind of data to make a decision. Rather, they are doing a real time decision making. Got it? So here there is no past experience history involved. There is no data stored anywhere. It's more of a reactive approach. It's more of a decision which is being made on a real time. It's a reactive machine. Okay, and again, definitely it is designed only to do a limited number of jobs, specialized duties. So again, you cannot just put a reactive machine to do a surgery to a cardiac patient, right? So those are very specific machines. So reactive machines has very specific jobs, limited number of jobs, limited number of duties which it can perform. So you cannot just blindly apply the reactive machine's logic, build up the reactive machine to do every kind of available jobs for AI, right? And again, as I said, it is very reliable, but it has very specific usages. For example, if you talk about, if you've heard, in 1990 there was a chess, IBM organized a chess program. Okay, so and the machine which they built called as Deep Blue. So then that Deep Blue was able to actually beat Gary Kasparov. So you know Gary Kasparov was one of the a very good chess player in the 1990s, and he was the machine was able to beat him just on the runtime moves, not based on the past moves. The machine was just doing a runtime moves calculation, and then based on that it was able to defeat him. Okay, so and that there was no training involved in that. There was no past historical training and all that. This is purely based on your reactive approach. Okay, so the first and the foremost of my list from the AI machines types are reactive machines. So here no intelligence involved, no storage of my data, no memory involved, but more of a reactive approach. Okay, the second is my limited theory. Now this is interesting. So in this limited theory, this is more complex, and here I'm storing my previous data. Okay, so here I'm storing my previous data. I'm making the system learn. So there are certain setup steps involved, training the data, and then a machine learning model. So basically an algorithm coming up to build up to train up your model. Then we're doing a predictions on top of that, maybe an external feedback on those predictions, storage of your feedback, and then making if based on the feedback, I'm then again training the model. Okay, So again, there are certain steps involved in your limited memory. So core difference between your reactive machines and the limited memory is your past historical data training. Okay, so in reactive machines is more of a reactive approach. Limited memory, we are having the data storage in the background, and then based on that we are taking the decision. Make sense, guys? So limited memory mein we are doing the historical data training. Based on that we are making the decision. So we are making the machine learn, we are training the model based on the historical data which is stored for your predictions purpose. Cool. The next two are basically still in concept. So theory of mind and self-awareness. So basically theory of mind, basically it should be able to grasp the things, right? So when I talk about reasoning, right, so it's more of the process where the concept of mind comes into picture, where the machine is able to do the things maybe on its own. So it's able to grasp and process the concept of mind, right? So research is going on for this, only conceptual. Similarly for self-awareness, as I said, once it has once the system has started questioning, it is able to take the actions also on top of that, right? So there's more of a robot, right? Robot is able to take an action based on the stimulus, right? So that's more of a self-awareness. Again, research is going on for that. It's more of a robotic science field, right? So that's more of a next gen of your artificial intelligence. So there are 4 types of machines. Reactive machines, more of a reactive approach. Second is your limited memory. That's where your machine learning and deep learning comes. So in that limited memory, we are training the model, training the machine based on the past historical data, storing that data, making the system learn and all that, giving some feedbacks, reinforcement learning. Somebody told that word, right? And then the next two, theory of mind and self-awareness, where that's the questioning and the self-correction actions come, the artifacts of artificial intelligence. Those are still ongoing. So few concepts are still ready, but people are still doing that research on that right now. So this is basically your overall layout of your artificial intelligence, right? So broadly, there are 2 categories of applications, okay? So the first is my narrow AI or a weak AI. And the second is my artificial general intelligence, more of an advanced part, which is AGI, okay? So there are 2 broad categories of my AI application. Narrow AI mein basically weak AI hai. So it's more of a artificial intelligence where you're using the limited context of your human intelligence. So you're making your, I would say, the machine learning process narrow. You're just relying on the data. So here, where the machine learning and the deep learning comes, you are making the system learn based on a certain, only limited set of data, right? And you're asking them to perform a specialized task based on that data. So you're narrowing down your approach. You're not making the system do anything else apart from that, right? You're focused on a single task. You're purely focusing your objective on a single task, and it is heavily dependent on your given data, right? So that is your narrow AI. And narrow AI is also referred as weak AI, artificial intelligence. And this is where my artificial intelligence of my machine learning and deep learning comes. So narrow AI is the field where you're making the system learn based on the historical data, based on the available data which we have, right? And that is where the things comes into picture, my machine learning, because machine learning is purely based on your data, right? Data heavily dependent. Cool. The next is my artificial general intelligence. That's where my theory of mind, my self-awareness, my the reasoning and the self-correction comes into picture. More of a robotics and more, right? So you are trying to mimic a human brain, and this should be able, the machine should be able to perform actions according to the given stimulus, right? So it should be able to take a corresponding action based on its own intelligence. So we are not focusing on a single task here. The robot is not only developed to walk straight, right? It can go right, it can go left based on the current stimulus, right? It can even jump, right? So that's more of an artificial general intelligence. So we are making the machine learn based on the available or all available stimulus, okay? Not focused on a single task. And we are not being heavily data dependent. We are making intelligence mimicking our human intelligence. So that's more of a artificial general intelligence or strong AI. Cool, guys. So that's basically more of it from the AI perspective. So narrow AI mein we have certain very good examples, right? So again, I was talking about, so like Google search, face recognition system, my Siri, Alexa. So you might be using Android or iOS. So you have Siri, Alexa for other personal assistants, self-driving cars, my any predictive models, right? So all of this which is doing a specified task, right? So Siri क्या करती है? Siri basically आपके voice को recognize करती है. It's a personal assistant for you. Self driving cars क्या करते हैं? It is actually based on the image feeds, based on the video feeds, it is able to take the actions, right? So Google search क्या करता है? You're typing some text, it is mapping with the text to the respective links. Face recognition system क्या करता है? So you based on your image, it is able to identify with who that person is and other details popped up, right? So everything here has a specialized task. Beyond that task, it cannot do anything else because it is made to do that specific task, right? And it is a very narrow approach. Narrow means, I mean, you are narrowing down to a specific single task, nothing beyond that. And that to perform that task, you are making the machine learn heavily based on the available information from the past. That's your data dependent, right? And that's where your machine learning and deep learning comes. These are the bases, are the strong bases of my narrow AI. Okay, so machine learning and deep learning, these are the basis of my narrow AI. Clear, guys? So basically क्या, artificial intelligence is nothing but a set of an algorithms and intelligence to try to mimic human intelligence. That is clear, crisp, right? Machine learning is one of them. So machine learning is one of the algorithms which is trying to mimic the human intelligence but on a very narrower range. And deep learning is one of those machine learning techniques basically. So machine learning is the artificial intelligence में bigger umbrella. So machine learning is one of the ways in which we can perform artificial intelligence. So basically your narrow AI. And under machine learning, so we have again certain specified task for your advanced algorithms where my deep learning comes. So सबसे ऊपर आपका top umbrella है artificial intelligence. Then second में आपका machine learning and machine learning के अंदर आता है deep learning. So this is your entire picture. So AI is the bigger umbrella. AI के अंदर मेरे पास multiple topics, multiple चीजें हैं. Narrow AI है, strong AI है. Narrow AI में I'm purely dependent on the data, right? And based on that narrow AI, I have machine learning which is doing the job. So I have the set of algorithms, set of rules, the rules which we can perform on top of data to make the machine learn the pattern. That is your machine learning. And under machine learning, deep learning is a set of those rules, set of those algorithms which are specified, which are built up to do the specific job. Okay. So AI, then machine learning ka part hai deep learning. So when I say, if you know machine learning, that by default, by default, I mean that do you know deep learning? Clear, guys? Anybody has any questions or is it too overwhelming for you guys? So AI, machine learning, deep learning ka point clear hua. Now I'll jump to machine learning post this. But anybody has any questions so far? Simran, Barak, Sandeep, Hemant. Sorry guys, I'm calling your name again. Career Hunt. Anybody has any questions? Or is it making sense to you? Okay. So CV, NLP, CV आपका तो यार I would say more of an ये तो package हो गया. So CV Open CV package होता है for image recognition. Okay. So NLP CV basically deep learning का part है. So क्या होता है machine learning में आप क्या करते हो? Machine learning में you're building up the algorithms or the rules to make the system learn, right? So again NLP क्या है? Natural language processing, right? So you're working on text. CV क्या है? Open CV package basically is for image recognition. So image के ऊपर आप काम कर रहे हो. So you're making the system learn based on your images. You're making the system learn for your text. So for your text, it's NLP. It's called as NLP. For your images, it's called as OpenCV is again a package, so we don't call it anything, right? So that is towards your advanced unstructured data. So machine learning basically focuses on the structured data in the other sense. So basically where we have something called as numbers or some categories. So the broad category of jobs, broad category of things which I would say the general machine learning does is on numbers like continuous variables 1 2 3 4 regression models आते हैं वहाँ पे classification यहाँ पे 0 1 classes होता है and then you perform something called on clusters. So unsupervised learning, I'll come to that. But deep learning may again, deep learning has a specified task. It's more of a unstructured data, I would say, is a subset of a machine learning where you're doing something on text, which is not numbers, and then you're doing something on images, something on video, something on audios. So where and again you're doing everything majorly through neural networks. So that's where your deep learning comes. So technically, to answer your question, these are falling under deep learning, but again, by default part of machine learning and internally by default part of artificial intelligence. Make sense? Thank you so much for that question, Simran. Any other questions, guys? कूल सो अभी तक हमने क्या पढ़ा गाइस? अभी तक हमने पढ़ा आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस क्या होता है एंड हाउ डज मशीन लर्निंग इज रिलेटेड एंड हाउ डज डीप लर्निंग कम्स इनटू पिक्चर, राइट? डीप लर्निंग वर्क्स ओनली ऑन न्यूरल नेटवर्क्स जरूरी नहीं है यार. डीप लर्निंग इज इन सेट ऑफ एल्गोरिथम्स है. न्यूरल नेटवर्क्स इज अगेन न्यूरल नेटवर्क्स जैसे क्या ना अगेन एक काइंड ऑफ एल्गोरिथम समझ लो. आपको जरूरी नहीं है कि आप एनएलपी जो है सिर्फ और सिर्फ न्यूरल नेटवर्क से ही कर सकते हो. फॉर एग्जांपल बता रहा हूँ आपको, है ना. So again, and zaruri, it's saying that deep learning can only be performed by neural networks. That's not correct. So neural networks is just one odd algorithms. Okay, one odd algorithm we have. Okay, which can perform the task. But again, the same task like NLP, where you're doing something on text or something on images, might still be performed on some other packages available. I'll talk about them. So I have a plan to introduce some other things also to you later in our Python for data science course. But again, to answer your question, no. So in deep learning, it's not necessary that they can only be performed by neural networks. It's a deep learning. Deep learning is more of a say. कैसे समझाऊं? Suppose आपके पास you're going to a college, right? And you're trying to learn some subjects. So आपके 5-6 subjects होते हैं, right? So basically subjects as a category. Subjects क्या हैं? Subjects is nothing but deep learning. There'll be multiple subjects which you are learning, right? Maybe maths, maybe science, maybe English, maybe Hindi, for example, right? So English जो है आपका neural networks है, subjects जो है आपका deep learning है, right? So there could be like neural networks, there could be something else which is science, which is something else which is your English or something like that, right? So there'll be some other algorithms, right? And deep learning का part, deep learning का one of the use cases है which you want to perform like say image wala job or text wala job. So you can do any of this by learning, by following, going through maths or going through science, or you can become respective things, right? So this is how it works. So basically deep learning में multiple tasks involved हैं, multiple objectives हैं, multiple use cases which you can do, and there are a lot of ways which you can do that, right? So if you go through way A or through other way B, other way C, it is totally possible. Not necessary that you have to perform all of things through neural networks, but neural networks more efficient way hai. I would definitely say that. Cool. So with this, let's jump to our another main important section, which is machine learning, right? So till now we are able to understand what is artificial intelligence and how basically where exactly machine learning falls under my artificial intelligence category and how deep learning is related to my machine learning. Anybody has any doubts in this relation process? Because most of the times people are confused by these terminologies, deep learning, machine learning, and Simran asked about NLP, CV and all that, right? So very, very interesting thing. So it's very confusing. Always remember that in data science, we generally talk about these three major broad sectors, okay? Artificial intelligence के under है machine learning, and then subsequently machine learning has a set of advanced algorithms which can perform certain tasks like on text, on images, which is falling under my deep learning category. Cool. So that's how it is. So now coming back to machine learning, guys. So machine learning क्या है? Machine learning includes a section of my artificial intelligence, and deep learning is a part of my machine learning, as I've always said that, right? So it's more of a narrow AI का part जहाँ पे I'm doing the machine learn pattern based on the data, and deep learning is one of the section of my machine learning which is more focused towards certain set of problem statements. Cool. And here objective is to definitely make the machine learn based on the data and give the meaningful business outcomes from that. So that is the pure objective. So basically I'm trying to make the machine learn based on the data and then get the meaningful business outcomes from that. So that is the sole objective. Again, it is purely dependent on your data, heavily dependent on your data. If your data goes haywire, definitely your learning process is incorrect, and ultimately the end objective, which is the expectation of the output from your machine learning learning process, that will not be making business sense, right? It is purely dependent on your data. So technically, whenever you're doing any machine learning job, machine learning predictive modeling and all that, so major objective is you have to make sure that your data is correct. So when I say correct, it does not mean that it comes correct by default. There are a lot of things that you have to fine tune your data. You have to do a lot of data pre-processing. So there is a word called as data pre-processing in data science industry. So I would say more of a learned people says that in your overall data science job, right, your 80% of your effort actually goes in preparing the right data. So nobody knows the definition of a right data. So for you, maybe a set of feature would be right, or maybe for me would be something else. So, but again, here the right data means that your machine learning algorithm is able to learn the pattern from that data which you have prepared. Okay. So technically, so data, when it comes from the business, it's more in a raw format, right? So there might be few issues in that, like missing data, outliers, the redundancies, so pattern changes, multiple things, right? So you might have to create a new feature, something else, lot of things, correlations, lot of things which we do, right? So technically in your data science work, right, so your majority of your effort goes into creating your data to make your data ready for your machine learning algorithm process, right, for the learning process. Because the major disadvantage of a machine learning part is it is heavily dependent on your data. I would say it's purely dependent on your data, right? So whatever you feed in, that's gonna come out. So that's how the pattern's gonna come out as an output, right? So again, as I said, your 80% of effort in data science work will go towards your data preparation part. Okay, machine learning में कुछ भी नहीं है. Machine learning अगर आपको पता है algorithms के बारे में, is hardly 10-20 lines of code, not more than that. Okay, so machine learning बहुत technical चीज नहीं है. But your knowledge is basically you're gonna use it to make your data, right? So you have to be very sure of what you are making, because the machine is going to learn, right, from that data whatever you are feeding it. If your data itself is, I would say, not so correct, I won't say incorrect, because there is no, again, a core definition of correct or an incorrect data, right? It's more of a perception. But again, if your machine learning model is not able to learn from the data which you have given, then yes, technically your data is not so correct. Correct? So getting sense out of it. So your objective of your machine learning modeling technique, machine learning technique here is to make the system learn, make the machine learn with the data you are providing to get the best meaningful business outcomes. Okay, and by learning I mean here the pattern recognition, which includes the ability to recognize the patterns in your data. Okay, so there could be multiple patterns. I mean, the other day I was showing about this data, right? Tips and the bills. If people remember that on the Seaborn plot, you remember we saw that there was a trend there. There was a pattern there. You know, if my bill amount increases, there is a high chance that my tip is also increasing. You saw that an upward trend in the scatter plot, right? And a very strongly correlated data. So very closely packed information in a very straight line, right? So there was a very strong relation, very strong pattern between my bills and the tips, and that is what my machine will be able to match also. Okay, so this kind of patterns, I mean, this is what you have observed from visualizing the graph also. The same pattern the machine will be learning it internally. Okay, so likewise you have to understand that the machine has to learn the patterns available in your data. So that is something which is very important, and that is why you have to make sure that the data which you are feeding to your model is actually sufficient enough to make the machine learn to justify your business outcome. Okay, so whatever business problem you're trying to solve, right? So it should be able to justify that problem statement. Cool. So now here again, definitely the pattern should be trained to show the output in a desirable manner. So pattern basically again should be directly related to your output. Now, for example, suppose that I want to predict, I want to make the system learn. Again, same problem statement की बात करते हैं for the tips and the bill amount, right? So now the business objective is that I want to predict what would be my tip for the next dine out which happens in my restaurant, right? So there are certain parameters, right? So as I was talking about, there were multiple features like maybe the number of people coming in, the total bill amount, right? Maybe the gender of the bill payer, was he a smoker or not, right? And the day which is coming, the meal which is coming for, right? So these are my individual data points, individual connecting dots to find the relation to my tips. Okay, so now what the machine learning model does, so my desirable output is tip. I want to find out the tip amount, right? So the pattern here internally, what machine does, it'll try to identify the patterns between my tip to each of my individual features here, individual available observations, available data points. क्या available data points हैं? Number of people dining out, is it a family or a couple or 3-4 people, like a friends, or the gender of the bill payer, total bill amount, smoking, non-smoking, day, coming for lunch or dinner, right? So these are my individual data points. So what machine modeling does, it'll try to map this tip with all of these individual data points, right? And then it'll not only single data point, it'll try to map it with hundreds and hundreds of such records. More data you feed, better the observation would be, better the learning would be, right? You cannot expect the model to learn from 100 odd data points, right? So again, higher the model, higher the number of data points, better the model will be, better the learning would be, because variations would be more. So the machine is able to identify multiple variations, right? So that's, we say that it's always data hungry. So it's always data heavily dependent, more data, better model, direct correlations, right? So you have to make sure that the patterns on which it is being trained, so this is how it is being taken care of. So your objective, business objective, is basically being met here. Okay. Okay, so model basically यार क्या है आप समझो. Now I'm talking about this pattern recognition, right? So this, for the tip I have some multiple data points. So all of this pattern understanding, right? So all of this the relation between my objective, the end objective, which is tip, and the relatable observations, which is like size, bill amount and all that. So all of this relation is somehow kind of packed in one of a file. Okay, so all of this relation, when all of this complex mathematical calculations is actually wind up or maybe clubbed in a single file. Okay, so that file basically we call as a model file. Okay, so that's basically we call it as I would say a model, a trained file, right? So this is what all the relations are stored. Okay, so that's a model for me. So the entire process again we call as a model building process. Okay, so how we build it, it's purely towards your I would say the pattern recognition. So I'll talk about the algorithms. I'll show you how we build it. So it's basically on the coding platform. So like Python, we generally use it here. On there are certain other platforms also like R and all. So we'll do it through Python. Teams, okay, yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, the whole objective here is to do the practical application. So do not worry about that. I'm not a person. I'm gonna give you the theoretical lectures. That's anyway not going to matter much. So again, guys, do not worry about that. I'll show you all these model buildings part. I'll show you how to build a machine learning model on Python. Okay. So we'll be having such classes. But again, before even jumping to that, let's try to have the logistical understanding. Let's try to have the this literature part done, right? So if you know the concepts, if you know the theoretical part of it, right, you'll be able to connect the dots. If you do not know anything about machine learning, if I just directly jump on and start coding, will you think that you'll be able to understand it? No, it will not make sense to you, right? So first, let's try to understand the conceptual part, and trust me, guys, I'll definitely try to cover each and every concept one by one, and I'll try to introduce you through Python. So that's what the playlist also says, right? So we are doing data science with Python, not only data science. Okay, so does not really make sense to me. So do not worry. We'll come to the applications part. Cool, guys. But here till now things are making sense. Sandeep, I hope I answered your question. James, thank you so much for responding. Anybody has any questions, guys? Cool. So let's do one thing. So I think we have covered quite a lot of good topics today. So artificial intelligence, machine learning. So let me stop here for today, right? So we can introduce this new topic, supervised and the unsupervised training. So I'll maybe take them tomorrow. So let's not rush into things, right? But again, let's try to take a quick recap. I hope I'm making sense to you guys. Okay. So artificial intelligence से हमने start किया था. It's more of a real time. It's more of a non-real intelligence. I'm trying to mimic into the system. Different types है learning, reasoning, and self-correction process. Learning process, are you trying to make the system learn? Reasoning, to question on that learning process, and also taking the action on top of that. So this reasoning process and self-correction process, I would say, is more of a research area. It's still ongoing. Certain advantages we've already seen that, right? So we talked about these four machines, right? So theory of mind and self-awareness is where your things comes into picture. So these are under research. Reactive machines, more of a spontaneous approach. So it's not being learned by previous data, rather taking a spontaneous approach. Limited memory, that's where you're training the model, training the data. Training the machine or making the machine learn the pattern based on the available data. So that's your limited memory, right? And that's where actually limited memory के अंदर ही basically आपका learning process में machine learning and all आता है. But broadly अगर आप देखोगे तो AI applications दो type का होता है, narrow AI and weak AI. Narrow AI, weak AI और strong AI. Okay, so narrow AI में you are focusing towards a narrower objective, a pinpointed objective. That's where you are making the system learn based on the pattern and the data. So that's where your machine learning comes into picture. Very specified task. But AGI or artificial general intelligence or strong AI is where you're making the machine do hell lot of other things like mimicking a human brain, like a robotic thing. Okay. So that's where your AGI comes into picture. Narrow AI, we talked about few examples. Then that's where your machine learning and deep learning comes. And this is your hierarchy structure. AI comes on top. Machine learning is a part of AI because it's like one of the categories of AI, narrow AI. So that's where machine learning comes. And deep learning is a set of certain advanced algorithms or rules, which is again a part of a machine learning, because machine learning is anyway a rule or algorithm kind of a thing, right? To make the machine learn. So deep learning has a very specified set of advanced learning algorithms, like for your text, for your images, for your videos, for your audios, unstructured data. So that's where your deep learning concept comes into picture. But again, it's part of a machine learning only. Cool, guys. Any questions so far? I'm still going to give you maybe a couple of more minutes. Please shoot out your questions if you have any, or we can wind up for the day and we can start from machine learning again. So we'll talk about supervised and unsupervised, take some examples and all that. Cool, guys, all good? Just a quick thumbs up or a yes or no in the chat. Cool. Thank you so much, Simran, and I hope it's good for others also. So great, guys. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for being patient and listening out to me. So we're gonna continue tomorrow from the same part. So again, we have the second part of our workshop tomorrow. So I'm gonna finish the theoretical concepts tomorrow. So and then post that once. Let's try to introduce the individual algorithms one by one and the practical building a process on Python. So I'll take care of that. Great. Thank you so much, Sandeep, for your wonderful words. Great, guys. Thank you so much. So with this, we're gonna wind up for the day, and I'm gonna give you your evening back. Happy learning. Stay safe, and see you tomorrow, same time, 9 p.m. Thank you so much. Bye bye.